Welcome back, Thompson to Clark. You know what, Brad? I'm just going to get into it right now. I didn't even tell you what was going on, but we're going to get right into Old Guy Alley because I have a quick Old Guy Alley that I just was so frustrated with for a couple seconds here. You are a guy who is in IT. You understand how technology works, how the internet works, how computers
I was just looking at this little SSD 1 terabyte hard drive I have on my desk. That's how small they are. I understand this stuff. Yes.
So, unfortunately for me, because of where we live, Comcast is how we connect to the internet. Now, give them a benefit of the doubt. It's been pretty fine out here in Sunnyvale. And they sent me a modem because I guess they have upgraded tech. There's new models that they want everyone to jump on and start using. And I always hesitate because if it works, I don't want to ever touch it again. Like, that's my mentality. Because the second you touch it and you mess with it, it could possibly break and you don't know what's going on. So they sent it to me and I was like, okay. And then there's all the other rigmarole about how you connect it, and then you got to send the other one back, and you got to find the right store, or you go to the post office. It's not, they could have just sent me a box and say, hey, stick it in the box and we'll pick it up. Like, that'd have been great, but no, they do not do that. So then I thought, okay, I can't do any of this on the weekend. Our television's connected to the internet. I don't want to interrupt anything. I'll wait until Monday. Everyone's gone to work. I work from home. It'll take me 10 minutes. I'll be back up and back at work. No problem.
Don't ever tell yourself that.
So, first of all, the Xfinity app on Comcast is horrible. It is. I just dread opening it because it's so bad. But you have to do everything through there. Again, I'll give it the slight benefit of the doubt. It connected pretty quickly. The actual connection, everything was actually pretty fast. I had a pretty okay time with it, with one exception. So I am hardwired for internet in my office. So this computer that I am on right now is hardwired. My television in my office and my Apple TV and my PS5 all hardwired as well. So I don't have to worry about Wi-Fi. So as I plugged in the new modem, what is the one thing I forget to also plug in? The Ethernet thing.
Oh, no.
Because I was just worried about Wi-Fi because I just wanted to connect everybody and make sure everyone else, because everyone else is connected to Wi-Fi. I'm the only one connected to Ethernet. So I'm like, oh my God, why is this not working? And so I don't actually use Wi-Fi on this computer. So the Wi-Fi connection is always off. So I'm toggling with it. I'm like, why is this not working? I go to my TV. Why is this not working? And then about 10 minutes before we're about to record, I had the aha moment. Oh yeah, I'm connected to the Ethernet in this room. No wonder it doesn't want to connect in any way possible, and I can't. And it's like not letting me connect to Wi-Fi. So I did do that, which is why we started the show a few minutes late.
Yeah,
everything was kind of all wonky, but I had just one of those old guy moments. What I was dreading. And then I was like, no way, this is way easier than it usually is. And I just jinxed myself because I forgot that's one thing.
You never say that. You never say, hey, this is going to be a simple fix, especially swapping out a router, because anytime you swap out a router, you've got to take the router. You know, the trick is always take the new one as soon as you plug it in. Change the SSID to the same as the old one, the password the same as the old one. That way all your devices see it and connect automatically. You don't have to change. You have to go around to, because I mean, back in the day, what did we have? 2 Wi-Fi devices, you know, so that's it. You know, I could change the password. It's no big deal. Now you've got like 40, 50 things hooked to your Wi-Fi. So if you don't automatically pop in and change your SSID and password to the same as the old one, then you're going to run into a massive amount of issues. Try to talk my parents through that one when they moved into the new house, and they're like, but it can't be the same. I go, no, it can be the same because the other one's disconnected. So it really doesn't matter. So yeah, there's little tips and tricks. And it's always, you know, it's always one of those things where you're like, I'm just going to do this really quick and there won't be any hiccups.
And
That's when you get the hiccups.
The other thing, though, is, when you think of all of the people that you help with this stuff,
Yeah.
and I'm like, I'm the one that people ask to help, and then I can't figure it out, and it's just
It's always
driving me
happens.
nuts. It makes me feel
Hey, I do it all the time myself. I can't even tell you. I have a 34-inch monitor at work, and today I was like, I'm gonna do the KVM, the built-in KVM in it, the keyboard video mouse. And so then I could set a shortcut and just Control 1, go to one desktop, Control 2, go to the laptop. Took me forever to find the damn shortcuts in the app, in the application on the computer itself. And then you have to go to each computer. And then the shortcut can't be, if you want to do Control 1, you've got to set it to be the other computer, because once you go to the other computer, now you can't come back if you have a different shortcut set. So anyway, I was struggling with that this morning, and I had the aha moment. I go, oh, go to the other machine and set it to go back to the other one. I got it's backwards. So, yeah.
All right, it is time. It is spring training.
Yes.
The diabolical Biz Marquis says. All right, we have 5 questions and 5 players that we just came up with because they're guys that we're watching. Last we talked about guys we're watching really closely this spring to see how they're doing. And this is more about 5 players who were kind of wondering the fit. We're wondering, how they're going to do compared to what's the expectation. And in some cases, and probably the first one that I'll talk about being Mike Yastrzemski, are they even going to be here? Because he's on this is free agent year, his last year before free agency, 35 years old. The Giants will no longer have any control to him. And what is his value in an analytical world where he excels at specific things and then he doesn't excel at other things, which are kind of the things that make you a lot of money in baseball? So we'll talk about the 5 players that we have 5 questions for. But before we get to that, I know you said that you watched a little bit of spring training this weekend. What did you catch, and anything catch your eye?
I didn't get to watch as much as I wanted to, but I really, and I don't know how people are going to take this, but I really enjoy the automatic balls and strike system. Because when the Giants, I think it was 2 days ago, they played the Dodgers, and the Giants blasted through. They got both theirs wrong, like within the first 2 innings. So then they're gone. You don't get them the rest of the game.
Yeah.
The Dodgers in the 5th inning, they used 3 challenges and got all 3 of them right. So they still had their 2 challenges the rest of the game.
Oh, wow.
I enjoy that. The one tweak I want to see, because I like it, you tap your hat, you tap your helmet if you think you want to challenge it, and you got to do it right away. You can't look over the dugout and go, like the old days. Is Sean Dunston checking that one for us? You can't do any of that stuff. You have to make that decision as the pitcher, catcher, or batter. You can't have help from anybody else. What I think would be a really cool thing is if each batter, now I don't know how they would do this with the pitchers, but if each batter had 1 challenge or 2 challenges per game. Because it really doesn't, it doesn't slow the game down. You get the result within like 20 seconds. It pops up on the board. You see it, it hits the strike zone, or it doesn't. So watching them do that actually live while watching a ball game, you can miss it. It's that fast.
Right.
So I think if each batter, so then if a pinch hitter came up, hey, he's got his challenge or 2 challenges. I'd say 1 challenge per batter. Because if you come up to an AB in the 9th inning, as the base is loaded and it's the 3-2 pitch, and it, skirts the corner and the umpire rings you up to end the ball game, it's nice to have that challenge, not have them have been used by other players in the 5th inning, 4th inning, or whatever it is. So to be able to have a challenge all the way up through the 9th inning, 1 per batter, I think that would be kind of cool. And maybe each pitcher gets 2, Something along those lines. If you're a relief pitcher, if you're a starter, you get 2. If you're a reliever, you get 1, and that's it.
You know who would have really loved his challenges? Wilmer Flores in the 2021 Wild Card Series.
But can you check a can you check a check swing? That's the question. I mean, we gotta that should that be reviewable? A check swing? What do you think going forward?
You know what I think they should do for replay?
Yeah.
Basketball, we talked about this. Basketball does it really poorly, and it really kind of all it does is make the games so much longer, which, you know, from a commercial standpoint, maybe the national telecast kind of enjoys that. It's like, oh yeah, we get 3 hours of commercials instead of 2.5 hours. I think and football does this, which is less than 2 minutes in the game. Any play is reviewable from the booth because they want the significant things. They want the things that matter to be called correctly. Now, there are other things that the NFL does in kind of a dumb way. Like I guess they're changing this year for the first time. They're not doing the chains. Like it's going to be digital, like to test for the first downs.
See how that goes.
But also, like, why is there not something in the football that can actually place where the ball is instead of a 65-year-old dude's like eyesight? Like you and I, you know, are struggling looking at our phones, and these guys are
there. It is there. Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
but they do that correctly. Like I think when you get to the 8th or 9th inning, if there is a close play, that all of them should be reviewable, but it's got to be quick. Like New York's got to be on it, and we can't sit here and wait 5 minutes for a call, because then the whole flow of the game is gone, and then pitchers get cold and all that stuff. So anything 8th or 9th inning, you don't even need a challenge. It's just going to get figured out by New York. Maybe it's just for the playoffs. Maybe you just try it in the playoffs, and it's not, you know, an everyday game. But that's the stuff that I think matters. And we go back to the Wilmer thing. It's obviously a check swing. He may have struck out on the next pitch.
Yeah,
but we don't know because he got hosed on that thing. So that's the thing that I would like to see that they get right. And but, you know, these are attempts to try and do some stuff. And baseball has done a really good job over the last 2 or 3 years to get some of this stuff right, which they were so resistant to when we were growing up. Like everything had to be done this specific way because that's how it was always done. So I like when we have evolution of things. So I'm for it.
You know, and I think that's really the key is the flow of the game. You know, if you disturb the flow of the game, you can't have it. That's just kind of how I feel about it. For me, at that point, it's not worth it. Yes, get it right, but holy moly, especially in baseball. I'll be the first to admit, I mean, I'm a baseball nut. You and I are baseball nuts. We've loved baseball ever since we can remember. It's a slow sport.
Yeah,
it's just the way it is. It's got a flow to it. It's got its own slow flow to it, should I say. But it's got its charm, and it has its, you know, hangout feel. Hang out, you know, things are happening. All of a sudden, you go from 0 to 100 miles an hour at the swing of a bat. I mean, things start moving and things start happening. If you start disturbing the flow, I mean, here we got the pitch clock, you know, to speed things up. That's how slow of a game baseball is. So if you disturb that with replay after replay after replay after replay, it gets tedious. But I mean, we're in the digital age. We're full cameras everywhere. So there's no reason somebody can't be watching the game, you know, for what at the most, what is it? 15 people, because there's 30 teams and you've got, you know, you've got 15 games going on at once, and not even at once. I mean, you finish watching a game and now you watch the next game. Somebody who's hired to do that in New York. I don't know why they, like you said, though, they can't just see it and go, wait a second, that was too close. Let me take a quick look. Scrub. Okay, he's right. And you don't even have to say anything to the umpire at the point. You don't even have to tell him to hang on unless you absolutely are going to change that call, but you're doing it so fast. So that's kind of one of my main takeaways from watching some games this weekend. And the other takeaway is I wish I was there in the stands with a beer. That's my
Yeah.
that's my other takeaway, man.
Yeah, JJ reminded me we went to spring training game 2 years ago, I think. So that was the last
Okay.
time I was
Yeah.
there. And it's just one of those things. We're gonna have to get back, like,
Yeah. Well, and it's getting close to my retirement, and the kids are getting older, so we could do a little bit more traveling.
yeah.
We travel with them as much as we can because we love taking vacations with the girls. It's an absolute blast still. We're heading off to Disneyland in like 2 weeks, and they're
Mhm.
just absolutely jazzed for it. But we can make those shorter trips on Southwest from Reno, hop down to Phoenix, catch a few games over a weekend, and then fly back on a Monday, leave on a Friday, come back on a Monday. So, we're starting to look into more of that type of stuff that we can
Mhm.
do. But who knows?
All right, one more thing before we get to our 5 questions and 5 players segment, which is, I don't know how much you've followed this, but ESPN and Major League Baseball are at an impasse as it pertains to their contract. Now, ESPN signed a deal with Major League Baseball. They get baseball on Sunday night, and I think they get the wild card portion of the playoffs, or there's the I forget what part of the playoffs they get, but anyways, they had an opt out in their contract with Major League Baseball, and they exercised it. And so this is the last year of baseball on ESPN, unless they just come back to the table and renegotiate, which is always a possibility.
Yeah.
But Major League Baseball, I'm sure, is looking for better relationships with some of these streamers that are out there, like a Netflix or an Amazon Prime, for some national products or some national broadcasts. And then the other part of the product that I think they're going to really try and find some wiggle room with is, we talk about these RSNs, and RSN just stands for Regional Sports Network. So if you watch the Giants, you watch the Giants on NBC Sports Bay Area. And we had talked about this, where they're kicking the Giants to a higher tier, so you actually have to pay more to watch them. I don't know when that's taking place, if it has already taken place. I haven't seen it on my Hulu bill, so I'm not quite sure what's going on with that. But so that's kind of in process as well. And so Major League Baseball may have, 10 or 15 teams that they have the regional rights to, and they may try and package that in some way with one of these streamers. Like, one of these streamers may be the one selling these packages. So yeah, when we were kids, ESPN didn't really have much of the sports rights. Like, there was
Right.
Australian rules football, there was AWA wrestling.
Oh, lots of bowling, right?
There was bowling. There was they had lots of college basketball. I remember lots of college basketball when I was growing up.
Yeah.
And then they started to make deals with these big leagues. They made deals with Major League Baseball, NBA, NHL, NFL. And so it just became like, like ESPN is now kind of in the big time. So for them to step away from baseball is kind of interesting. And I just saw, I guess there's an article in the Wall Street Journal where they were like so far apart in how much they wanted to pay MLB and how much MLB wanted, that maybe they don't get back to the negotiating table. It looks like there's some bad blood going on. But it's going to be kind of weird without Sunday Night Baseball, right? I mean, they already dumped Baseball Tonight, which was kind of like the hardcore baseball fans show for us.
Right.
They dumped that, and now we may not have Sunday Night Baseball after this year.
Yeah, I mean, if they can find another avenue. Here's the thing. I used to watch Sunday Night Baseball, but life is so busy now. Sunday nights are kind of, when you've got work and you've got teenagers and stuff like that, Sunday nights aren't. I'm not sitting around watching baseball at 4 p.m. I'm usually
It's
out.
also a good TV night with the spouse.
Absolutely good movie night. We like to throw on like a a Marvel movie or something on a Sunday night, I'm usually out barbecuing around 4:30, 5 o'clock to get ready to come in and watch shows or a movie. So Sunday nights are hard anyways. MLB Network has done a fantastic job of putting on some good games throughout the week. Fox, like FX, what is it? Fox Sports 1. I don't even know what it's called anymore. I think it's just called Fox Sports because I don't think there's a 2 anymore. But Fox Sports, they put on some games on Thursday nights. I don't know if I'm honestly going to miss a whole lot of ESPN baseball because what else did they have? They had Monday nights sometimes, Wednesdays. I'm looking at the schedule that was just put out for Apple TV Plus, the Friday night baseball schedule. That's actually looking pretty. See, now Friday nights, kind of getting ready for the weekend. I'm in a baseball mood. I'm definitely watching some ball games. They have some games now. You know how they did a lot of the double headers last year where the games were starting like 4:30, 5 o'clock. They have a lot this season, early in the season, that are starting at 3:30 p.m. Us on the West Coast. So like let's see, the second one of the season, April 4th, Dodgers at Philly. That's a 3:30 p.m. game. And then you've got a 5 p.m. game right after that in Tampa Bay and Texas. Giants don't play on Friday night baseball on Apple TV Plus until April 25th against Texas. And we're at home for that one. So it's a 7 p.m. start. And then 2 weeks later, May 9th, it's a 5 p.m. game in Minnesota against the Twinkies. So yeah, I don't know. I don't know if I'm going to really miss ESPN baseball a whole lot. Cause like you said, I mean, the big draw for us, when we were younger, the big draw was Baseball Tonight. That was, when I first got cable, I want to say it was like 1995. And it wasn't even cable because cable didn't run in our neighborhood in the Bay Area of all places. It did not run there. We got a satellite dish, so I got to watch ESPN and I got to see Baseball Tonight. And I was like, this is the greatest thing. But now with the MLB Network, if you want your fix of baseball inside stuff, I mean, that's where I'm going. I'm not going anywhere else. I tried the ESPN Plus. What do they call it? Sports Center Plus on Disney Plus this morning.
How was it?
It's 15 minutes long. And it's like, here's the top 10 plays. And then here's a couple of quick stories, and then we're out.
Wow.
So it's kind of like
it's like a Snapchat show.
It kind of felt like that, but you know what it felt more like? An advertisement for Sports Center. You want more of this? Come watch Sports Center. So I think that's kind of what they're using it as. It's a little bit of an entry into, hey, don't forget Sports Center is still on. So
I've told you this before, but if I had every morning when I wake up, wake up for work, I work from home. So really it's just waking up, getting some coffee, looking at my phone, turn on the TV for 20 minutes. And then I get started for work and I kind of dig in. If I could get a 15-minute baseball show that just tells me what happened last night, I would be in heaven. Same thing for basketball, by the way.
Yeah.
It could be on YouTube. It could be on Pluto TV. It could be on any one of these millions of networks that we have to watch stuff. It's just crazy how in this day and age, I can't find anything that kind of fits that. All I want to do, I don't even need an in-depth analysis of what happened in the game. I need scores. I need highlights. I need stars who did well. I need a look at some of the young players, and that's it. Like, just give me 10, 15 minutes of what happened the night before, and I'm gold. But it has to be narrated. I know Apple TV kind of does one where there's no narration, and they just show you highlights that kind of just spins through, and it's mostly just home runs.
That's like an hour and 5 minutes. I mean, it's like a good 5 minutes per game. It's like, I get that, but you can't jump to the game you want and then jump back to the other. Like, if you could do that, I'd be on board. But who's got an hour to sit and watch highlights from the night before? I mean, that's a lot.
We're talking baseball, but for the NBA, There's like 20-ish games left in the season. And really what the NBA is right now, if your team is in the top 10 in your conference, you're looking at possible playoff positioning and possible play-in game positioning.
Yeah.
Like I just want I could look at Twitter and search for scores if I really want to, but I'm watching the West. I'm watching all the teams ahead of the Warriors. How did the Clippers do? What about the teams below the Warriors? How did the Timberwolves do? That's all I care about, and I just cannot find a way to do that without having to sit through, more than I want. I just want 10, 15 minutes, and I'm good. I would watch that every single morning in both sports and be so happy, and I can't find it. So if anybody knows where there's a service like that, hit us up, man. And at gg@bspnmedia.com. I'm looking for it because it's hard. I don't know why it's hard.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I mean it's baseball, so you could break it down like you said. You could break it down to like here's Mike Trout hitting a home run, and then nobody really cares that much if the starting pitcher went 7 innings, gave up 8 hits, 4 runs, but struck out 9. That's fine. I'll see that in the box score. I don't need to see the 9 strikeouts, but that's what I feel like you get with the Apple one. And I think it's MLB.TV also has a really long one as well.
Now I like MLB TV.
Right.
If I need just to see the clips of the Giants game that I missed or the Dodgers game that I missed, and they have a little 3-minute video that's fantastic. Like that is worthy of subscription in of itself, is just to have that. So that's fantastic. Yeah. And some people might say, why don't you just watch SportsCenter? No, because I don't care about Jimmy Johnson retiring from Fox. Like,
I read lacrosse. You don't care about lacrosse?
Well, I read about it, right? I read about it because it's all on Twitter, but I don't need to see that because I'm not interested. I want on-demand stuff that I'm really focused on right now. And yeah, I'm sure there are people who care about Jimmy Johnson retiring from broadcasting or, what's the latest in the NFL Combine. Like, yeah, there's I want to be, if I want that stuff, then I want to directly have that stuff. Speaking of the NFL, I think Rod and I will be up to Tuesday night talking the Debo trade because you got to keep Stafford, but 49ers had to trade Debo.
Yeah, is that a good trade? Bad trade? Just quickly, I don't.
I mean, I think they were going to cut him anyways. So it's like they got a 5th rounder.
Get in a 5th rounder. Why not?
The thing that sucks about it is the cap hit that they're going to have to take this year because of trading him, which kind of sucks. So
that's the business of of football nowadays. Those cap hits. It's just so hard.
Yeah. All right, let's get to our segment about our 5 players and 5 questions. And I added a 5th one because we both had 2, and I was like, oh, let's round it off. Let's make it 5. Okay, so I mentioned Yaz at the beginning, and here's my question, and I'm asking it kind of for both of us to discuss: is Mike Yastrzemski, and a lot of this will have to do with how the Giants are post All-Star break, if they are in the race, if they are close, if they are not. Is Mike Yastrzemski on the Giants before or after the trade deadline in 2025? Because, like I mentioned, he is going to be a free agent next year. He could literally walk away. Now he has given the Giants value. I always complain about him because, in the clutch, if I see this dude with 2 strikes, I know what's going on.
Yeah.
But at the same time, he plays right field tremendously. I think he was like 4th in the NL in assists last year. I think he led all outfielders in runs saved because of his defense. Some of that, I'm sure, has to do with the difficulty of the park that he plays in. And yeah, he can run into one. And I think he's a fan favorite. I think the fans appreciate him for kind of having the great story of being an older rookie and sticking with the team for as many years as he has. But realistically, is he somebody that would benefit a team maybe who is in a better position than the Giants are come playoffs, but also at the same time, is he holding back a younger player who the Giants will want to kind of grow through their system and obviously cost a lot less to them because they have the rights to. So it's kind of a double-sided thing, but do you see Mike Yastrzemski finishing out his last season before free agency with the Giants?
That's a tough one because honestly, I feel like if he was holding back a player that the Giants wanted to have playing right field day in and day out, like let's say a Luis Matos, somebody that they wanted to get all of the at bats to, that Yaz wouldn't be here right now. So, I mean, they had the chance to trade him in the offseason, chance to release him. They had a chance to not offer him arbitration. A lot of chances to ditch him. I think they feel at this point that he gives them the best chance to win as the right fielder in the lineup. And that's fair because, like you talked about, we've seen him in that ballpark and he's been a top 3 Gold Glove finalist a couple of years of playing right field at Oracle. So his value is not necessarily in his bat. I mean, what's his WAR, like 2.4, 2.5 usually yearly. But that glove, his glove out there in right field is I mean, it's invaluable. But that being said, if the Giants are battling for a playoff spot and he's hitting 205 and his OPS is like low 600, I think at that point you've got to see what else you've got. But then again, if his glove is what it has always been, do you then look? I mean, you've got to then look at the value and say, we're trading a guy away and we're putting a Matos in there. We're putting an Encarnacion in right field. What is that going to do for the pitchers? What is that going to do for the pitching staff, the relief staff? It's a 1-run ball game. And you need a good right fielder to make those plays out there. And that's where Yaz has his value. So until the Giants really find a guy, I mean, McRae is a good fielder. Can you stick Grant McRae in right field? I mean, what's his back going to be like? He's, his spring is not very good so far. But again, this would be halfway through the season. So are you making me answer? Is that what you're doing?
If you had to guess.
If I had to guess, okay, my heart says he's going to be with us the rest of the season.
And all the Giants have to do is just be a couple games over 500, and they're probably competing for the last wild card spot.
Absolutely. So my heart says yes, he's going to be around the entire season. And I think my gut says yes also, because I don't know. And there's going to be injuries. There's going to be things that happen. People are going to get shots to play in the outfield for the Giants other than Yaz, Jung Hoo Lee, and Elliot Ramos. That's just going to be the way it's going to go. And Yaz is getting older, and he's had his share of injuries the past couple of seasons. So that's the other reason too. I mean, if Yaz is hurt on and off, you can't really trade him. You can release him.
Yeah.
But when he's healthy, his glove is good. So my heart and my gut, they're feeling good about this one.
Yeah.
But I say feel good, and some other fans might say that's feeling bad, but I feel good about having Yaz. So
the other thing, they do not have a lot of good defensive outfielders on this roster.
No.
Encarnacion which is someone we're going to talk about in a second. He's a DH essentially. Like you may get away with playing him in the outfield, but he's a DH.
Right.
Ramos is your left fielder, but he's not anywhere close to winning a Gold Glove, I don't think. Jung-Hoo Lee, you hope that defensively, because he's got speed, that he becomes a plus defender, and I think there's hope and there's thought that he can actually get there. And then Yastrzemski's one of the best right fielders in the game. Who's behind Yastrzemski? You mentioned Grant McCray. Grant McCray strikes out 40% of his at-bats right now,
Right.
so he's going to have to add some hitting add a contact tool to his hitting game. And then we also mentioned Matos. And the thing about Matos is I go back to that game I was at. Alex Cobb has the no going.
Oh yeah.
And the ball that is hit, that is the hit in the game, is Matos would have had to make a great play to make that play. But at the same time, I'm like, I wonder if Yaz was in right field, if he would have been able to make that play and keep the no-hitter. I don't know, but knowing that it was Matos in right field, I was like, I wish we would have had our best player out there to defend that. So, that's just the other thing. So, who's one of your players who you have a question about?
And it was more of a question at the beginning of the season, because beginning of the spring training, because this is a guy who's been talked about quite a lot, but and pronunciation of the first name, I've heard Gerard, I've heard Herrar. I like Gerard because it's easier to say and it actually sounds pretty cool. So let's go with Gerard Encarnacion. He's a guy who just hit the crud out of the ball last year. Exit velocity was off the charts. And in the minor leagues, he was destroying the baseball. The Mexican leagues destroying the baseball. And he's got 10 RBIs already in spring training, which is not, RBIs in spring training, that doesn't mean a whole lot. But the fact that he's hitting 455 and seeing the ball well and crushing the ball, he's a guy that I wonder, can he be our full-time DH?
Mm-hmm.
And when you're looking at a guy like that, right-handed batter who just smashes the ball, can he be your full-time DH and even face righties? I don't know exactly what his numbers were against righties last year, but again, last year was such a small sample size.
Yeah.
What we're seeing from him and the confidence that he could also bring into the season. But it looks like he's absolutely battling and going to have a spot on the roster going into the start of the season. So that's my guy that I have a question about. Can he be a full-time DH? Because again, we don't have many lefty bats. So that's the problem, is when you're talking about a lefty DH, who are we looking at? I mean, I can't even name many lefties that are on the Giants roster at this point. You got
Bryce Eldridge
Jr., you got Bryce Eldridge. I mean, what we've seen of him in the spring so far has been, good with the bat to start, then kind of slowed down. Fielding is rough. Misplayed a real routine ground ball the other day that went for a double. And so, so that's kind of hard. He's not a full-time first baseman yet. He's going to need that tutelage, and that he's going to need a lot of innings at first base going into the season. So,
here's a question. Do you need Encarnacion to be a full-time DH if you have Wilmer, essentially? You could use Wilmer in that spot. I mean, we've watched this brother run for the last few years.
Is that what you call it? Running?
He's not moving well. So maybe keeping him off of the field completely helps his legs a little bit, and he's just your full-time DH. I wonder if that's their fallback plan, which is, okay, we'll give Encarnacion a shot. He's got power. As long as he puts the ball in play, hits it hard. But if he does not succeed, and we do have to, because he doesn't have any options, I don't think.
Right? No, he's out of options.
And then you have the Wilmer's fallback plan.
Yeah, I mean, I could see that, and just kind of give him a little bit of a rest too. I mean, if Encarnacion needs some time off, you've got Wilmer. The talk is Wilmer is your off the bench guy, your late innings pinch hitter. So, I think this, looking at the roster, and if Encarnacion can be that guy and he could be a 25 home run guy, you're looking at like 5 guys in the lineup that could hit 25 home runs. And then Adames, who could possibly hit 30, 35, maybe even. And then you've got Chapman that could probably hit 30. Ramos, and then you got the question marks, because then you've got Ramos, Encarnacion, and I had a fifth. I can't think. Yeah. Who am I missing?
Okay, go over your guys again.
What's that?
I said go over your guys again.
So possible 30 home run guys, right?
Yeah.
You've got Adames, and you've got Chapman.
Yep.
And then 3 more guys could possibly hit 20 to 25, and you've got Encarnacion, and then you've got
Elliot Ramos.
I had another one earlier.
Did you have Fitz in there?
Yeah, Fitz is tough. Yeah, maybe just 4 guys that could possibly hit that many.
Yeah, I think you're right.
I mean, if Eldridge comes up, and then we're talking next season, and that's maybe what I was thinking about earlier today. It's been a long Monday.
Yeah. Just okay, so my next guy is Robbie Ray. And my question for Robbie Ray is, can he, it doesn't really have to do with if he's going to have like this crazy comeback season. It has more to do with, is he going to be able to stay healthy with the way that he pitches, which is he grunts and throws every single pitch about as hard as he can.
Yeah.
Because if he's not going to go deep into games, then he's kind of your 5-inning guy. And maybe that's, you get 5 or 6 innings and he strikes out 10 guys, and then you gotta, you're close, the game's close, and then you depend on the bullpen. Whereas Logan Webb is kind of the opposite. His whole goal is to go 7 or 8 innings, and he's not trying to throw the baseball by guys. He's trying to pitch into contact in some cases and get them off balanced. So do you think that Robbie Ray is going to finish the season as a starter, which means, we're talking 28 starts, 30 starts? Is that what we're going to see? Or are we going to see some scenarios where they're going to have to sit him down, or maybe he goes on the DL and he's going to miss some time?
Yeah, I could see that. He's the one question mark that I have, because you've got Hicks and Harrison. I mean, it's tough, because when you look at the starting 5, you can say, all right, we've got 5 guys that are going to be pretty tough, and it's going to be a good. I think I saw MLB Network post our starting 5 last night. They put Harrison at like 4. They put Harrison at 4, Jordan Hicks at 5.
Yeah, they don't know. that's part of my problem with the national media covering teams. Is they're not
exactly
that close to certain teams.
No, and one of the comments, somebody said, because they said what type of rotation is this, and one of the comments was, it's a top 10 rotation, and everybody of course bashed the guy.
Yeah.
But I can see it, because I mean, I don't think there's 9 rotations. I don't think there's 11 rotations, should I say, that are better than the Giants rotation, if those guys can all put in their starts. And with Robbie Ray working on the changeup that he got from Tariq Skubal, I guess he got diagrams. It was crazy. he all got videos, diagrams, all kinds of stuff.
Yeah, the article that I read said that I guess the The liaison was Matthew Boyd, who pitched for the Giants for I don't even know if he pitched for them, but he was on the roster.
No, he never did. He never pitched.
And then they traded him. But he was the liaison to Skubal, and he's like asking him about the changeup, and he's kind of wondering, like, is it patented? Like, he just want to give out these secrets? And so they asked him, okay, well, what did you help him with? He's like, I just told him to throw a slider as hard as he can.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. What was the exchange? I showed him how to throw my slider, but it's really his slider, but I just told him to throw it harder. So, yeah, it's some classic stuff. But I think Robbie Ray is a good question mark because his upside is tremendous. His downside would be an injury, and that would be tough. But the Giants have such a deep, young starting staff at this point. When you got Harrison and Birdsong and Wiz and Hunt, who need some time. You've got Mason Black. You've got it's going to be deeper. Kai-Wei Tang. Off the top of my head, I know I'm missing a couple, but I think he probably misses a few starts. He probably gets like 26, 27 starts this season. Because there's going to be some time. He's going to need a breather in the rotation. I mean, this will be his first full season, his first full spring since what, 2023? Right? Because he got the injury in his first start in 2022. So he went through spring in 2022. So this is his first full spring in 3 years. So I'm going to probably 27-ish starts, which is fine because if
he throws that much, he's probably going to be really good for them.
I think so. I think so. And then you could plug in Birdsong for a couple of those starts as well. So, yeah.
All right. Who's your second person?
Second one is the biggest question mark. It's been our question mark since, I don't know, June of last year. But Camilo Doval, who we really, really, really need at this point, because if you've got Ryan Walker, and then you've got Randy Rodriguez and Tyler Rogers as your 7th and 8th inning guys. It's it's kind of tough, but if you can get Camilo Doval to be your 8th inning guy and he can throw strikes, I mean, he's been talking to a couple of the Giants former players, and one of them,
Petite.
Yusmeiro Petit. So that's one of the guys that has kind of talked to Camilo Doval and is like, you just attack. If you have to take something off of the fastball, if you have to take something off, you throw strikes. That's kind of the key. I read another article in the Chronicle today about, how the Giants pitchers in spring training and their bullpen sessions are trying to hit, and also in games, trying to be in the green zone. So the Giants have set up a green zone in the strike zone. They're basically saying, if you're attacking the zone, you're in the green zone. The higher percentage, the better. And they have a winner each day. It's like a Starbucks gift card and stuff like that. But apparently in 2021, when the Giants pitching staff was pretty damn good and pretty lights out, they led the league with 66.1% of first pitch strikes and strikes in the strike zone early in the count. Last year, they were 64. So that's how tiny of a fudge factor you have. It's just 2%. And that was good enough for like 4th or 5th. So they're trying to get that back up there. And Camilo Doval is one of those guys that really has to be there for his stuff to be effective, because otherwise it's easy takes. I mean, when he misses, and you and I have seen this and everybody's seen this, when he misses, he's not just missing on the corners. Because if he's missing on the corners as hard as he's throwing, he's going to get some swing throughs. The problem is when he's missing out of the hand and 5-6 inches off the plate. So he really needs to attack the zone, and he needs to be that guy who is the 8th inning guy and takes that mantle and says, you know what? I'm not the closer anymore. Ryan Walker is dirty. His stuff is deceptive. He only throws 91, 92, 93, 94 sometimes, but he's super deceptive.
Actually, I think he throws harder than that.
Yeah, you know what? I think he does. Yeah.
I think there was he had mentioned maybe that he was in the low 90s until he figured something out with his with his delivery, and he actually can get up to like 95, 96, 97 sometimes.
Right. And with the deception and the turning the back and everything else that goes on with his pitching and his windup, I mean, he's super nasty. So you can't, he's won that role. That's the thing. He won that role from Camilo Doval when Doval couldn't handle it. So you've got to have the right head on Doval's shoulders to be able to take that 8th inning role.
Right.
Because it's very important. Melvin did say, when Ryan Walker was moved into that 9th inning role as the closer last season, they were in a spot where they didn't know who was going to be their setup man. And it kind of put them behind the 8 ball a little bit. So if they can go into this season knowing that Doval is right, and if something happens to Walker and they need to get Doval in there, a rest night, you use Walker 2 nights in a row, and all of a sudden Doval can now close out a ball game. That's extremely important. You have a 2-headed monster, and we've seen that in Baltimore. We've seen that in Philly. We've seen that in San Diego at times. LA, who knows? I mean, they got like 8 guys who can do it. So to have more than one guy who can be your closer, if you're going to be competitive, that's what you need. So that's one of my questions.
That second thing that you said about Doval is more of my question, which is, can you go from being the guy to not being the guy? Because there's a bit of ego there. And from an agent's perspective, the 9th inning guy makes a lot more money than the 8th inning guy. So you want the guy to be the 9th inning guy. So does that mean out of camp, maybe Doval's plays it cool, but are they going to be looking for a trade so that he can be a 9th inning guy somewhere else, which helps him get paid more than if he was just a setup guy? So that's another interesting wrinkle to that conversation.
Yeah.
All right, our last guy. I had a few that I was thinking about. One of them was Elliot Ramos because he fell off pretty hard in the second half of the season, similar to Tyler Fitzgerald. Actually, Fitzgerald's a little worse. I had those guys kind of in that area. I think by the Giants signing Willy Adames, Tyler Fitzgerald is less important to be as good as we were hoping he was going to be. He moves over to second, and if he doesn't hit, then guess what? You got Casey Schmidt, who's going to be a better defender, and you just play for the defense, and you move Fitz into some utility role, or Brett Wisely, or whatever.
Yeah.
And so I was thinking about Lamont Wade. Will Lamont Wade be the 2021 version of Lamont Wade, or the one that we've seen of late, though? Again, on base percentage, very high. But I decided to lean on Luis Matos because there is an outside chance that he can be the Elliot Ramos of 2025 just on opportunity alone. He's got the tools. The problem with him is earlier in his career, he was making lots of contact and not powerful contact. And he still is a great contact hitter. I think I saw there's a stat where he was like second to Mookie Betts in some sort of statistic around contact. But sometimes, as we've seen, it's soft. It's like little looper line drives that are easily caught. But it's really about his his contact or his power more so than, I'd be fine if he struck out a little bit more if he hit the ball a little harder, right?
Yeah, for sure.
How hard is the ball coming off of his bat? That is kind of the thing that you need to watch for him. And if he has improved at that level, then he's possible for that kind of role that Ramos played last year. He just needs an opening, and he doesn't have that opening right now, which kind of leads back towards our discussion about Yastrzemski, because if Matos could push for more ABs, then maybe he is the guy who hits lefties and Yaz has to sit, but then you deal with the lack of defense, which he is not a good defensive outfielder at this point in his career. So
right.
I wonder, my question about Luis Matos is he going to hit the baseball hard enough to make the Giants think of finding a position for him? Because, you know, we've also talked about Luciano, and kind of like, I kind of like to see Luciano, you know, win that DH job. Similarly to Matos, right? Like, there's guys there who, if they hit the baseball and they hit it hard, the Giants may not care which one of them gets in the lineup. It doesn't have to be Encarnacion. It could be Luciano. It could be Matos. Like, let's pick one of those three. Can one of those three have a good enough season to just stick through? Like, you got opportunities for all three dudes. So that's something I want to see. If Matos can get his name in that mix of possibilities for being in that lineup, I want to see that.
Yeah, and I'm looking at exit velo from last season. Giants players with at least 100 batted ball events. Matos was 10th on the team. He hit the ball harder than Brett Wisely, Tyro Estrada, and Wilmer Flores. Didn't hit the ball harder than Tyler Fitzgerald, Mark Canha, Jung-Hoo Lee, Conforto, Yaz, Lamont Wade Jr., Patrick Bailey, Elliot Ramos, and Matt Chapman. So you're right. I mean, that's the thing is, the other thing too is he's got to get the at-bats in AAA. Yeah, because he can't be. The Giants could carry a fifth outfielder. They could also have Brett Wisely play second base while Fitzgerald goes out to right field. Fitzgerald is an outfielder. You could put him in center. You could move Jung-Hoo Lee to right field for a game. But to have a fifth outfielder like Luis Matos, who just sits there and gets to play every fourth or fifth game, that's going to really, really hurt his growth. So to see him go back down to AAA, and like you said, I mean, find exit velocity, find hard hit balls. That's going to be his key to being that guy. Because if you're hitting dribblers and you're hitting loopers and they're finding spots, now all of a sudden your BABIP is not, is not indicative of your batting average. So it's really got to be one of those situations where he's crushing the baseball.
Yeah.
And just being 10th, that's not a starting 9. So, in terms of that, but again, they're not looking at just that. They're also looking at defensive value and other things. And at some point he'll be up. I mean, 2025, he will be up, but I don't think it's going to make the team out of spring.
Yeah. Because of how Ramos finally filled the need or filled what they thought he was going to be. And look, Ramos has to do it again. Like, he just can't be a half-year wonder and just be like, all right, I proved myself. You hope that Ramos continues to improve. He's a little bit older, but yeah, I think this is an opportunity because of like we were talking about with right field, and B, the sort of the prove it opportunity for some of these guys. And I'm not saying that the Giants are having less patience necessarily, but I think with a new regime, if you're from a prospect from the old regime, you probably do feel a little bit of pressure to succeed. Because Buster's soon enough going to have his own prospects that he's drafted and that he's interested in. And, as these guys get a little bit older, maybe there's a little bit less patience with them. So we'll see how that works. I think that's a fascinating subplot as well. But, But okay, so we got through 5, and we'll be back next week and trying to figure out what else is going on with this baseball team. It'd be nice to see Eric Miller pitch.
Yeah, finally at some point. That'd be great.
I know we were talking about how Kyle Harrison was a little bit behind, but he did throw. Yeah, I want to see these young arms just like they're all competing, and let's see, make the Giants' decision hard here. That'll be fun.
Absolutely. Yeah.
All right. So actually we'll answer Haruka's question because Haruka was going off. He was going ham on poor Matt Chapman. Matt Chapman didn't do anything, and he was just
he didn't. Matt Chapman's trying to live his life.
He's getting subliminals, just dissed hard by Haruka.
Matt Chapman's just trying to wake up and brush his teeth. Jeez.
Is Yaz, Flores, and Wade the future in 2026? Of course not. They're probably all not going to be in the roster on 2026. This is probably all of their last years with the Giants. What's the point, you think, playoffs this year? I would probably bet against playoffs if I was, betting. I would assume that, at least for the first 2 or 3 months, I think they're going to be around 500. And if you're around 500, then you're good for that 6th spot, at least competing for that 6th spot. But why are they on the team in 2026? The reason why they're all on the team in 2026 is because they provide value for the dollars that the Giants pay them, and there are no prospects who have beaten them out for those positions. Because the flip side is like, let's say Yaz, you're out. We're putting Matos and Grant McCray in your spot. Flores, you're done. Encarnacion is the DH, and we don't need you. And Wade, you're out. Giants don't really have a first baseman. If you want to bring up Eldridge and he hits, 210 with 20 bombs, that could be a scenario. The problem is you can't lose 115 games in San Francisco because nobody's going to go.
Right.
The city is not going to support a tank job and a rebuild. It's just never going to happen. So the Giants need to be slightly competitive. And if they thought that they wanted to tank, then you also don't sign a Justin Verlander. You go with a younger pitcher. You don't keep a Robbie Ray. You probably trade a Robbie Ray and you go with a younger pitcher. So yeah, it just doesn't fit what they're trying to do. So that is why. And
you've got Flores and Wade on the roster too, because like you said, they're cheap. I mean, dollars per. We went over this a couple of shows ago. I mean, Pete Alonso is making a ridiculous amount of money, and if you compared that to the WAR that Lamont Wade Jr. has, Lamont Wade Jr. is getting paid about 10 to 12 million less than he should per the WAR. So he's a value. And Bryce Eldridge can't play first base right now. So I mean, and that's pretty much what's holding him back. And he's the kid is 19 years old, so they're kind of seat warmers at this point. You have nobody else that can play first base other than I mean, Wade Jr. and Flores.
The Giants are all of a sudden rumored for the Vladdy trade.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's not. I mean, if the Giants trade for Vladdy, then Eldridge is going to Toronto. I mean, that's the only way that's going to happen.
Yeah.
At that point. So
yeah.
And then Haruka's talking about Eric Miller being done. The numbness in the fingers, everything I read, is gone. And he just has an illness. He has a cold, the flu, whatever it is. So he's that's why he hasn't pitched yet. Went from one thing to the other.
Yeah. Poor guy. Just hoping the numbness went away and then flu came.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, we'll be back next week. So for Brad, I'm Double G. See you when we see you. Peace out.
Peace.